Welcome to Ledenon. We're almost done here for this championship, and there was a real chance that we would have gotten a wet winter wonderland. I was sort of hoping for it. I think instead we've gotten things a little bit more old school around here, but I gotta say, to round out this season, we've got a fantastic field of drivers, and we're gonna have a great race around here. Ledenon's great. We've both seen one race here already. It's a bit of an up and down mountain, a real challenge. Bit of a hard one to give the three people a run.
Yeah, this track, I think I said this on the Weekend Warriors broadcast that I had the privilege to have you in the booth with yesterday. This track, giving it as part of base content onto iRacing is basically like giving a knife to a 2-year-old. It's kind of a recipe for disaster, but I think this track really has some redeeming qualities to it. It's quite fun, even though these cars can be a bit of a pain in the butt. Certainly happy to be in the broadcast booth instead behind the wheel, because this is really going to be a tough task for these racers today.
The weather situation a little bit more complex than I thought it was going to be when I look at the weather tab here. We've got a perfectly dry track here, but the threat of rain dawning over us in the distant future. So if we mid-race start coming down, well, we won't have a pit stop storm. We only have one tyre on this car, but we will suddenly go from confident to a bit lost. You can almost see the sky up there. It's dark, it's miserable, it's painful. We have quite a few of the old Series Classic, C-Series Classic drivers and a few surprises helping us round out this season here. I'm very excited for what I see, and especially if this race turns a little bit glum halfway.
Yeah, I'm flashing my mind back to the race at Alton Park a couple of seasons ago, where the track wasn't wet, but it wasn't dry either. It was just damp throughout, and it was wet enough for these racers to really feel scared throughout the day. And now Alton Park, it's a known quantity for these racers. This track, on the other hand, really is not. Ledenon, it doesn't get a lot of love on iRacing in terms of people just running it outside of officials. Don't really see it in leagues too often, outside of ones that run the official series schedules of whatever series and car they're running. It just doesn't get a lot of love on iRacing. So even though if we do have similar conditions to that, you may think that's a complete one-to-one conversion. I don't think it would be, though. This track is, it's always a venture off into the unknown, it feels like, which is kind of odd considering this track has been on iRacing for quite some time now.
Its first year, it was one of the least popular tracks ever released in iRacing history, and I think it took literally less than a year for it to get rolled into the free content. Like, nobody even really noticed. As part of that wave that included a few others, Snetterton, Oschersleben and Winton as well were included in there. And then after that, obviously it sort of became forced a little bit on everyone. We have lost Laguna Seca recently from the free rotation. I mean, God bless its soul, it was valuable. I think we are getting a rescan at one point. So that sort of makes up for it. But still, you know, you give some, you lose some. Now all we need to put is Brands Hatch on every schedule for all time, forever. We have 3 splits today and 3 KSOF on this one, including quite a few drivers that have been waiting to make the top split for quite some time. An old school broadcaster of FF1600, David Whitehouse, usually a bit of a second split legend. I've worked with him a little bit as well. He's great to work with, and he's made it up here onto a race that starts dry here at Ledenon. I'm afraid I'm gonna have to mention her, and I can't just like not do this. It may be mildly embarrassed. We finally got Beatrice Yank on the track, one of the longest time patrons of the broadcast since the very start, alongside Frederick Surley, 2 names I always thank, but I was always told not to directly credit Beatrice every week. She's on the track now, so that's what she gets. Marking out what will be a final season of this broadcast. Good to eventually just see her actually hit the place once in a while. Laps quite varied around here. 126 our fastest, 128 our slowest. Quite a big range, but it's a very tricky track, going up and down and sort of hoping that you don't lose the car on the downhills.
Yeah, no, the downhill sections can bite and bite hard. We saw it during the Weekend Warriors broadcast yesterday how tricky it was for these drivers, especially in the early stages of that race, although it should be noted, of course, it being an official compared to the other Weekend Warriors League that usually shadows the weather conditions off of the stuff going on in real life. Here, however, I think the conditions are a lot less cold. It's still not great. I mean, the ambient temperatures are only about a degree or two warmer than it was for the Weekend Warriors. Track temperatures, though, because it is nice and sunny, for now at least, 82 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's not going to be nearly as sketchy for these racers, but still not going to be a bed of roses. This is a car that you have to put that effort into. You cannot run around this track without putting in a little bit of opposite lock, as we see heading off to the top end of the circuit right now. You're more so steering out of the turns more than you're steering into them.
The schedule says rain in 10 minutes, and we know there's a sim time jump between qualifying and the real race, which can mean we are going to drop into a rainstorm, and it's some quite big clouds, Ron. If you take a look at that weather forecast, I can't show it for you because iRacing is mean to us, but let me tell you, they're getting pretty dark green. There's even a bit of yellow in there. That's usually the sign that it's going to be it's going to be a bit of a tricky tiptoe. And if it does rain, it's the bottom of the tracks that are going to take the giant puddles as the rain comes down.
Yeah, I believe it would be hitting the north end of the track first, which would be the final few turns. And if that does happen, run and hide, I think, would probably be the best strategy to take heading off into this race. You want to run, hide, get away, as that was a spin there, nearly took out our camera guy. But yeah, if we get rain in this race, see, I joked about this before we went live. Just whenever I picture rain at Ledenon, I think of those lower parts of the racetrack being like absolutely flooded, like 10 feet of water like above the track. That's what I usually imagine. Obviously don't have that in iRacing. This track actually has drainage. There you can see the weather radar. Now that is rather ominous, I think, is the best way to describe it. It's like going into the pantry and just seeing that wonderful loaf of bread that you got the other day starting to grow a bit of mold, and it makes you kind of sad.
It's coming in hot from the north as well, so by all means don't think that's running away from us. I think that makes 16 drivers, and it's about the last technical challenge track on the schedule. No, there's 17. There's a 17 car here. It makes about the last technical challenge track on the schedule, and it is a really, really tricky technical challenge. Watch out for the off tracks when you go wide as well across that white line on the top of the hill. But as you go down, it's about the car unloading quite badly because the weight shifts. There's almost no weight in the thing other than your own human body, and so there's no aero keeping you to the ground. There's nothing there. You just end up dealing with whatever the car wants to give you. Lap one is always a bit of a joy. Every driver's locked in. Hopefully we can get the grid sorted in time to run through. We got a and ain't that the look, Ron? Ain't that the look that we wanted to see? Sam Devantier lines up on pole next to Alexander Istad. Ryan T. Sings next to Graham Rory Hunt. And Nato Browns next to Timothy Parker Russell. Ryan James Ward is in 7th. Rebecca Morrill is in 8th. David Whitehouse is in 9th. And Beatrice Yank is in 10th.
And then looking through the rest of the starters here, we got Ben Fullwood starting this race in P11. Alberto Latufu will start this race in 12th. It's Robert Hook in P13. Alex Moreno in 14th with Luke Vletter in 15th. Ross Kipping in P16 with Quentin Uvorel rounding out your 17-car starting grid. You know, that's a welcome sight in terms of entertainment for us here on the broadcast. For both of our graphics cards, though, I don't think it's the most wonderful sight. I don't think these racers are going to be happy about it either.
I've had worse things happen to me on a broadcast. Saturday for the boys on the Maconi Entertainment channel cooked my graphics card to a million pieces. You don't put 37 trucks around Daytona in the middle of the night. What are you doing, Jeff? I actually think this might treat me a little bit better. 17 cars, still a few yet to grid. And while the track's got to be pretty lightly wet at this stage in time, yeah, very lightly wet means you almost feel no difference. It's only going to escalate, and I'm going to keep an eye on that track wetness text, because as it goes lightly wet to maybe even more wet, this is going to become tricky. Beatrice thinks it's her fault. She does the rain dance. I think she's blessed us all with a very, very special day to round off this season. And we are green just like that. Sam Devantier, not nearly as fast as Istad off the line. What a launch from Istad there. Clears right out in the head. Ryan T. Sings in 3rd. Rory Hunt's going to hold the inside against Nato Brown. Already a little bit of spray coming off the back of these cars. It's going to be manageable for now. A little bit of free wide in the back around David Whitehouse as well. But Devantier might come back here at Istad down the hill. Very, very fast driver. Don't see him very often. Gonna try and go side by side into that turn. Oh, a little slip on exit. It's already treating them badly.
That could have ended in tears. You gotta worry about those curbs. They're going to probably have a kill streak by the time we're done with this race. Is that right there? Oh no, the commentator's jinx coming already for Beatrice. I was worried about doing it, and I don't think I can chalk that up to me or even you, Howie. Oh my God, that was Istad flying off the track.
Bye-bye, Istad. That was a little bit weird, but that proves that this track is not being kind already. That's two cars that have just thrown themselves off. I think Ross Kipping's probably another one that's struggled because he's far off the main pack, and this rain is starting to escalate very, very quick, but I think the quality of racing up front is going to be spectacular. Could be 14 laps around here, although they might actually slow down, and we might actually end up losing one of a race distance. Look at the wobble as they approach the downhill. And a real slide, Tokyo Drift from Ryan Teesing, but that's going to kill him 2 positions on the back.
Yeah, now here they go onto that start-finish straight away. This is a main spot to get a move done here at Ledenon. Doubly so in the rain, but can be sketchy even in this straight part of the racetrack. Devontier still leading. James Ward jumps his way up into P2. Look at Graham Rory Hunt and Timothy Parker Russell. He's got a side-by-side fight on his hands. It's actually Russell and Teesing, my apologies, as they currently duke it out for the final 2 spots inside the top 5. You know, Braun right there to try and stake a claim on that spot as well. Everybody wants to get off to a good start here at Ledenon, but you want to get off to a clean start more than anything else. I wonder how these conditions are going to involve and how these conditions are going to help these racers maybe turn up the wick a little bit later on.
That's Moreno very, very wide on exit. You got to watch out. 17x disqualification in these races, of course. It can instantly take you off the track, and even though we've not seen any car contact so far, you could go wide quite a lot. That's Timothy Parker Russell struggling on the downhill. Feels like every time you sort of start coming down a hill, suddenly the car just doesn't like you. And drivers are reacting very, very, very well up at the front here. Alexander Ristad is in P8, by the way. I will try and capture some replays of some of the slips and slides, but also it's going to be hard to get 100% of them. This is some real tiptoeing, and that is Sam Devantier's car around.
Yeah, so Devontier losing it. I'm pretty sure that was in the downhill section. Yes, it was. Around he goes. Very lucky not to get hit by anybody as he looped it, but your pole sitter backwards. He's now on the back foot, currently slotted down in 8th. That's going to be a very tough road for him to try and make up those spots and get his way back up to the front, but we still have a lot of racing left to go. I think the main source of overtakes here is probably going to be drivers going off the circuit, which is easy to do around this track in the dry. The rain in the midst as well, and that gets super easy. So as we follow some of the drivers going around this track and negotiating with it, let's take a look at the drama early. Oh,
it was car contact there with Beatrice, actually. I thought maybe she'd had a bit of a slip, but that 12 car up on the inside, and it's just a little bit of a tag. Then I want to catch the onboard of Alexander Istad. I won't highlight everybody that spins today, but some are a little bit more important than others, and this one is a big first sign of trouble from our race leader. Oh, the counter steer ain't going to be enough to save that rear end.
Oh, and very happy about the fact that these Formula Ford cars are about as light as a feather, because otherwise he would have ended up in the fences. That right there was Graham Rory Hunt and Ryan Teesing involved in some drama. Oh, and it continues on. That was a driver once again sideways. All pandemonium is broken loose out there on the racetrack as these racers try and deal with the conditions. It will be getting wetter and wetter as this race goes along. The rain will be getting heavier and heavier, and with that, the off-track moments are probably going to become more and more common.
Here's Alberto Luoso and Robert Hoek. You're not going to like the way this one ends, unfortunately. 2 cars near the back of the pack, but they're not in one piece. We're mostly in replay mode now because a lot of very important things just happened back to back. It really should not be that slippy out here. I'm waiting for the... Oh, I'm on the wrong drivers. I have to be on the wrong drivers here, surely. Yeah, they get a meatball flag right there. That is Robert Hook. I'm just hitting buttons everywhere because the amount of meatball flags that are showing up on my overlay, by the way, are outrageous. So we're going to have to sort of just like race for it. That's one slide. There's going to be contact on the other side. Boom, that's quite light. That's kind of tough. David Whitehouse, Timothy Parker Russell, also meatball flagged just like this. Who's going to be the first spinner? Oh, unlucky. Wrong time, wrong place for Parker Russell. Then Rebecca Morrill will be the next to catch a meatball. She spins, and it's going to be a car in and away. It's the same cars as before. I mean, it's the same cars as before. And then here's Alex Moreno. I don't think there's a flag on this, but it's just proof that it's tricky out here. Is this the same two? Oh! Punted out into the distance there. And so life continues. You get a fast repair here, so you do get the chance to deal with one of these horrible incidents. But let me tell you, I don't know how to say it, sorry. It's Latufo. Still has a meatball flag, and it's trying to make it around the track as it stands. You will get removed if you don't serve that before the end. I mean, every single place has been a bit of a calamity now. I wonder if we've calmed down just a bit. A few drivers have now repaired their cars. You only get one shot. That's Avantier going off as T-Sing's making a move for the lead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that looked like Ryan James Ward was starting to struggle, and that has certainly been reflected in the fact that his lead has disappeared. He's now slipped in second. It's now Ryan T-Sing right up in front. I mean, hey, it's definitely a stretch, which it's me commentating. Of course, I'm going to make some very odd and frankly stupid comments. You only need to swap out the E and the A in Ryan's first name to get Rain. So I guess that could be the reason why he's proven himself to be a bit of a rain maestro here. Been able to jump into that spot. We do have some lap traffic to worry about, and the rain is still going to be increasing in its severity. At the start of this race, we were in the blue. Now, the blue and kind of aqua color here on iRacing means that it is the lightest rain that you can have in the sim without it just being completely gone. We're now into the green, and we're rapidly approaching upon dark green territory, which is usually the heaviest rain that most rainstorms have. If we get off into the yellow between now and the checkered flag, which I don't believe we will, although the rain is certainly intensifying in the center of the storm, we're going to have a slip and slide of a racetrack.
I will point out to the audience, I once had to sit in the grandstand of Brands Hatch for a race significantly wetter than this in these cars. Yes, it was a year I actually made it to that damn event. And you know what? A lot of cars somehow managed to make their way through it. And some are sort of slicing and dicing their way through. Alexander Istaz back up to third. Talk about the disasters that have happened around. He's just managed to slowly pick off drivers that be making these errors. Not seen any other catastrophes yet so far, and I'm not in the business of highlighting every single incident, especially to old Aunt B here, but I will point out the meatball flag that just happened, because meatball flags are kind of the important ones. Oh, it's David Whitehouse also making the same spin behind, and if that's the meatball, that's ridiculously unlucky, because that car looks perfectly fine in one piece. I think it might be. We'll keep it over 15 seconds, because sometimes these things have a margin, and I might just have my words eaten. No, that could have been it. I mean, ain't that a thing? Go in, serve that fast repair, deal with it. I don't know. Kind of brutal.
Yeah, if that was the meatball flag for the lightest bit of contact, I mean, we've seen on behalf a decent amount of clonks thus far in this race. There have been some pretty big impacts as that's Rain T-Singer around. He loops it heading out of turn number 8, and what we thought was maybe going to intensify is another battle for the race lead after T-Singer was able to jump in front of Ryan James Ward, and Ryan James Ward was able to get that spot back. Around he goes, and that's going to take him out of contention. Such a shame. Just to wrap up on the point that I was going to make about that meatball flag for the lightest bit of contact as basically like surviving a major car accident where a car got slammed into by a train and then you die from a minor fender bender on the way back from the hospital.
Moreno disqualified. Must be too many off tracks and one or two too many car contacts in only 10 minutes. To be fair, in conditions like this, I kind of get it. Ryan T-Sing's off the track again, and this time I was going to say Alexander Istad was going to be in range to take on T-Sing, but maybe that one just happens for free. Here it is at the bottom of the hill. The track is now considered lightly wet by iRacing. It's the curbs. Problem is that T-Sing's taking too many of these curbs, and that's what caused the last spin and what caused this one. You have to remember that in any car, those curbs turn into ice blocks on the side of the track, and if you try and mount the car on them like you're used to, you're going to quickly have a very bad time.
Yeah, I think I've shared this story on some broadcasts I've done before, but, you know, it's my commentary. I always like to break off into a little story. Back in my karting days, there was a track that I used to drive at, which was part of an old naval air base right outside the city of Philadelphia that they closed many, many moons ago. We were running on part of the old runway, and down at one point of the track, they had a giant metal plate that you had to drive across. So whenever we were racing in the rain, we were pretty much, well, my dad would always warn me, do not turn when you head your way across there, because that's a very easy way to turn your car from facing in the right direction to facing in the wrong direction. And that's exactly what happens when you run over the curbs. Any non-porous surface, you know, that asphalt, it may be smooth in terms of not having bumps, but if you run your fingers along it, it's rough. So you got a little bit of grip. There's still places to land on. That's perfectly fine. If you're running on the paint, though, it's all smoothed over, so if there's any sort of wet weather in the midst of that, you're just going to be done for. As we catch up on some of the moments that have been going on, Timothy Parker Russell has run into some difficulties. Sam Devontier, as that right there proves how quickly things can go wrong. He was barely on the paint, just clipped it a little bit as he tried to drop the anchors and slam on the brakes. And as soon as that happened, whoop, around you go.
Seems like we're getting quite a few driver end problems. I tried to find there the instance of Sam Devontier apparently spinning 3 times in 3 corners, and I'll totally believe you, but it's hard to find on my log of actions because it seems like quite a lot of drivers are spinning all the time. So they do indeed start to stack up and up and up and up. Alexander Ristad, I genuinely think he might chase down this win in the last few laps. We actually have cut a lap from the estimation. It's probably going to be 13 now, given the pace drivers are going. It could even go down to 12. Ryan James Ward, though, he's just sort of holding on to this car. Done a good job of it, but feels like he has jaws coming up behind. Ristad spinning from the lead and making his whole way back. I always do try and tell people in this car, as brutal as it is, as unfun as it may seem, as horrible as it may look, you can eke out consistency in this car in the rain. Don't ask me how, I can't do it, but there are people that absolutely know how to get it done and know that they can have a mistake or two, but everyone's going to do it. And all they need to do is have fewer than others. Oh, look at how wide Ryan James Ward is running. He's unconfident. He's spinning.
Oh,
not into his stand, please. I think damage-wise, he's been forgiven for that. That's not a meatball flag. He goes forward in one piece. Ain't that some of the luck of the century? You sound like you had the whole panic in your full chest there.
Oh, I have been in a situation like that before, both in iRacing and in real life, having a driver spin right in front of you. I have been 2 sides of that coin. I have been the driver who was right behind somebody who was spinning, and I've been the driver who was spinning right in front of somebody. Sam Devontier, he was worried that he may pick up a DQ for incident points. He actually warned about in the chat a little bit earlier on, and unfortunately for him, that has come to pass. I love these onboard shots. I was going to note that before we saw that contact and coming together. You can see just the racing line, the usual racing line, of course, all the rubber built up on. You can see how smooth it is. It's about as smooth as my brain. Hits that curb a little bit, spins him around, and that 2x for losing control. Got to take him out of it. So that is game, set, match for him. And you can also see as they headed their way, I believe it's into the turn 11 hairpin right at the top end of the track to test my knowledge of what turn numbers are what. But that hairpin there, we saw it happen with Ryan James Ward. We just saw it happen in that replay of Sam Devontier. There are so many puddles as you try and run off the racing line, which you have to do in the rain, because if you run on the racing line through a turn, it's going to be like you're running on the paint. You're just going to have no grip at all. You'll actually get a good view of it as Alexander Ristad worries about some lap traffic, heads his way off through turn number 10, about to head his way into 11 right now. You can just see, look at the amount of puddles and standing water that are out there. You hit that in a Formula Forward car, a Formula car, period. It doesn't even matter what kind of race car you're in. And you're just going to aquaplane like a madman. You hit that, and your finely tuned race car turns into a yacht.
I've been watching a lot of incidents on board, naturally, and I've got to say, that last corner is in a horrible state, by the way. It's not random, yeah? Like, it's not like the car is randomly snapping at random times. Almost every spin I've watched on board, someone has either taken a puddle or they've taken a curb. And that's what's going to take you around in a car with basically a single tread down the middle and nothing else. You can, with the right graphics settings, I understand, you might not always have them, but you can see the spots that are going to kill you. And you can see how Alexander, he slows down the car when he's going over puddles. He absolutely is terrified on the throttle during them. When he has to do them, he backs the hell off, and he just sort of lets the car float through it because he knows he takes a line that sort of cuts through the racing line there, comes back out when there's a bit of grip left on it, and So there's a certain magic to mastering this, and it's why I'm kind of in awe of watching Alex. See how he takes these lines and sort of cut across the racing line. He returns to it a bit, but then he's very, very bit scared. He can't on the worst parts. You put more power up on there if you had more confidence in the car right now. Down there, he knows he's going to hit this puddle, tries to go wide. This is a difficult thing for him there, but there are places that you just have to put your car in. You have to look for the grip on the track in this car, and if you can do that, if you can find the grip, you could walk home as a race winner, as Alexander Ristad might do right now. Don't want to jinx it, but he is incredibly good at responding to this thing, and that's what's gotten him from the back all the way to the front.
You know, in the rain, there's always such a fine line and a fine margin that you have to run to be quick and be successful and get the win with a clean race car. Here at Ledenon, I feel like that's really exemplified as we've been riding on board with Alexander Ristad, especially heading off through this final chicane. There is no good way to head your way through there, because if you're on the outside, there's a little bit of like bowing out as you get farther out. There is a less banking on the outside than there is on the inside, so usually when you're running through there through the dry, it's fine. You just hit that, boop, perfectly fine, no worries. Now, however, in the rain, you can't really run on the outside as Ristad loops it around through turn number 2, hit the paint. I think that's what happened there. He hit the paints. The problem is, right as I was going to say it, along with trying to avoid the racing line, you got to worry about avoiding the paint. And sometimes you hit a bit of standing water, aquaplanes you right into the paint, and that's exactly what just happened to Alexander Ristad. One small mistake, and he's gone.
Ryan Teesing's on 15x this race that he's reported in the chat. So watch out for another driver to slowly disappear from our marks. And that puts James Ward back up on top. The actual rain has stopped for sort of some time. Although iRacing, that hasn't really. I'm literally looking at raindrops. iRacing has upgraded the track to moderately wet. For all those who said, oh, well, look at the Devblog, we'll never get this race again. Buddy, this still ain't a red flag. Let me tell you that. We are not even close yet. And with 2.5 minutes to go, drivers best not hope it reaches that point. It's not really a monsoon. I would call this just a decently wet race. But it's just a car that notoriously hates you in these conditions, and I respect every single person that has come out for it and has braved it, even if they've eaten quick disqualifications, even if they've spun the car 50 times. It's not easy, and they're doing it, and I'm sitting here from my comfortable chair.
Oh, as you can see, that it's just so uncomfortable seeing these drivers run these cars in the rain. The problem that you've got with these tires is you got all-weather tires, so they run not too great in the dry, but they run even worse in the wet. So it's kind of a half-half compromise where nobody wins, as that is just so unnerving. I say that as somebody who adores racing in the rain. I love driving in the rain, both in real life and in the sim. Back in the day when I was still in karts, my dad used to call me a mudder. The same term they use for horses that run well in the rain and the rain alone. I adore racing in the rain, but there is no more hopeless feeling than you can have behind the wheel of a race car than running in the rain, either hitting a puddle or hitting paint. I have done both in real life and in the sim, and it is quite an unnerving feeling, because at that point, it's a Carrie Underwood song. You let Jesus take the wheel at that point.
We're getting wetter and wetter and wetter, and drivers better be happy about that, because we're approaching the final lap of the race here. 1 minute to go means when James Ward crosses the line, there's almost certainly no time for any more. Make it 13 runs. This has been a perfectly poetic race. And honestly, I've enjoyed this more than most others this season, because I've really been able to look for, you know, where is the grip on this track and where are people finding and looking for it. Yeah, drivers haven't been really racing close to each other and battling really close, but instead we've had a very, very different kind of challenge for them. Nice wide line there for Ryan James Ward, helps avoid the puddles on the downhill, and we should cross for the white flag this time around. I say should. Do we expect someone to get 2 laps down in 15 seconds? Ryan James Ward has to hold on just for one more lap in order to claim a win. Otherwise, Alexander Ristad will take it right back, and both drivers have been very, very, very deserving of it. Lap cars all around the track just trying to hold on for dear life. I don't want to know how much I-rating Sam Devontier is going to lose today. He's 9k I-rating, by the way. He's going to get brutalized, the likes of which you've never seen. Not an easy day for everybody out here today. There's Ristad just behind. One bad spin gets him up ahead. But other than that, everybody's just sort of looking out for themselves out here on the track. Everybody is celebrating the white flag in the chat, celebrating the end of today. But it's a real skills test to keep the car together enough times to not get DQ'd out. And do we want to speak or do we not? I feel like if I speak, big trouble, and I don't want to be in big trouble.
Yeah, I decided to take a look, and now this is unofficial because this is information coming from SDK Gaming, which is the software that I'm used to in terms of production, but sometimes the live timing information can be a little bit...
Nailed it!
I was just gonna say Sam Devontier, according to SDK, is about to lose 178 rating. I'm gonna shut up now.
Those calculations are usually right. I know quite a few overlays that can do rating changes, and they're usually all pretty much on point. 2 more turns, 2 epic saves to get through the wet and claw through it here. Almost nothing can go wrong now for Ryan James Ward. I shouldn't say words like that, but what a spectacular win here at Ledenon. Maybe the best of the whole season. Ross Tippett takes a DQ over the line. There's his stat just behind. You love to see it. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, outside of me having a panic attack about 5 times following James Ward on that last lap as I was trying to spit some color out, that was fun. What I love about rain racing is it's the only style of racing in motorsports where you can have a 4-second gap between first and second, a 23-second gap between second and third, and then have gaps of 4 seconds, 9 seconds, 20 seconds, 14 seconds, laps separating some of these racers. Only in rain races could you have something like that that'd usually be cringeworthy to see in real life in the dry and make it must-watch entertainment. Even the racer that was on track for a victory just had about 5 code brand moments in the span of 5 seconds.
That was a wet and wild roller coaster. That's why I was looking forward to hopefully seeing a wet one today, because there's sort of nothing like it in some ways. Let's get the full screen results. Ryan James Ward takes the win over Alexander Ristad. Just one fewer mistake does it. Nato Brown finishes P3. Graham Rory Hunt makes it 4th with rain at Teesing. Or maybe rain Teesing in P5, because that's a very good finish. David Whitehouse finishes 6th, having to Ben Fullwood and Timothy Parker Russell. That's all for our lead lap drivers. Alberto Lotufo finishes 9th, and Rebecca Morrill finishes 10th.
Yeah, and then looking through the rest of the field, we got Beatrice Hank in P11, Ross Kipping in P12. Robert Hook will finish this race in P13. Quinn and Yavorel will finish in P14. Sam Devontier in 15th. Alex Moreno completes your 16 drivers classified in this race. Lots of them with DQs, and I think this is the first time in a while that we've had DQs that were mainly just down to drivers losing control and picking up off tracks and not just slamming into each other like a pack of angry orangutans.
Well, it's funny you talk about slamming into each other like angry orangutans, because we have our final race, and the gods have placed it at the cup layout of Watkins Glen. How wide can you send an FF1600 out on the first turn of Watkins Glen? You do get a very nice, forgiving curve on the entry to the bus stop, but those new NASCAR track limits are going to be an absolute roller coaster. A joy? Maybe it's the Thunderdome we all deserve to finish out what has been quite the run here.
Yeah, I think from this season, and at least from my brief time doing these official series broadcasts and these broadcast period, I think Watkins Glen to bring it all to a close in 1 week's time is going to be, it feels kind of fitting in an odd way. Even if that race turns into a bloodbath, it will still feel fitting in an odd sense. But I'm looking forward to it just for the entertainment. If there's any beef, I can be happy to just leave and not have to see everybody tell everybody else 15 reasons as to why they should cancel their iRacing membership.
I mean, like, no matter what happens, we just need to accept the road for what it is. That's been one more. Almost at the end of the road of the FF1600 broadcast. I've been Harry Burrows alongside Ron Mullins. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next week at Watkins Glen.